Hey Carl, Jason here. Just listened to your mini review for Onslaught at Arden. Just a minor correction. Fantasy Flight Games didn't lose the license for Star Wars. They're part of a bigger conglomerate, and that company decided they're going to take the RPGs away from Fantasy Flight and put them with a different company to have Fantasy Flight concentrate on like board and card games. So that's why Star Wars and Genesis and whatnot got slipped under Edge because the company restructured. So it wasn't anything to do with licensing. Anyhow, sounds like an interesting adventure during the period the Star Wars actually happens. So that's kind of cool. And yeah, so I will talk to you later. Take care and keep up the great work.
Carl Rodriguez is the GMologist, GM extraordinaire, the GMologist.
Thank you, Jason, for that clarification, and welcome everyone to the Geomologist Presents. That is pretty true. That is cool. Thank you. That it wasn't like they lost the license, but it seems like the big mega company in board games, etc., Asmodee, has acquired Fantasy Flight Games and split things up, and the division that now does role playing is called Edge. So, and they have a little blurb here on their website, edge-studio.net /Star Wars. Edge Studio is proud to announce it will be producing role-playing games set in a famous galaxy far, far away. Edge is part of the Asmodee Group and is now officially licensee of Star Wars TM role-playing, which is really cool. So they're exploring many eras, revisiting old classics while venturing into exciting new frontiers. So it looks like the first thing they've done is reprint a lot, or print under the old Fantasy Flight Games, Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, Force and Destiny. And now they're going to do other things as well as expand it, hopefully, upon those. So pretty cool. I'm looking away to see. No. Interesting. Oh, they're doing Embers of the Imperium, which is a different verse as well, and L5R, which seems pretty cool. So there you go. Thank you, Jason, for that clarification. And now, on with the rest of the show. Does it seem like every time I get packages, I got to unbox them? Well, maybe. Maybe it just leads into talking about other things. So let's do this one. So from Lightning Source, which is Drive-Thru RPG. I think I bought this on a whim. It's easy to open envelope, type of cardboard envelope. And it is an adventure that I got print on demand. I feel like it was on sale, maybe for like new adventures or new game system sale. And this is Atlantis, the Second Age, Grandmother's Island, a 5-part adventure by Elizabeth Shapradku. Probably mispronounced that. But a full-length adventure set in the antediluvian world of Atlantis. So Atlantis is not really sword and sorcery, the Second Age. It definitely is like antediluvian high fantasy. There's different, it's not humanocentric. There's different species that are there you can play. It's a pretty interesting system, and I really need to learn it a little more. But in this particular adventure, and maybe, I don't know, it seems like a good convention adventure. That's why I might have gotten it. It is a full-length adventure of retribution, revenge, and redemption, complete non-player character write-ups, chaotic combat scenarios. There's also pre-gens in it too, so it's a place where you go, Grandmother's Island, and solve the mystery. It probably could be plugged into, I don't know how easy it is to convert, but definitely it seems like you could use this Atlantis, the Second Age, as any sort of antediluvian high fantasy. I really like the maps. I like the different kind of I guess it's pre-Hyborian age even, right? Between the fall of Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius. This is before the fall of Atlantis. So pre-Hyborian Age, pre-history. So pretty interesting. Maybe I will use this as an intro, as a mini review of Atlantis: The Second Age, because it might be worth looking through and checking out. Okay, before we talk about the actual product, Grandmother's Island, what is Second Age Atlantis? I gave a little bit, but this maybe will help. So here's what it reads on the back. Between the golden age of Atlantis and the coming of the Hyperborean age, there was a time of great heroes and terrible monsters. This was an age of epic kingdoms and draconian warlords, an age of dark gods and forbidden sorcery, when those that plumbed the depths of lost lore could build empires of light or plunge the world into darkness eternal. This is the second age of Atlantis. So that's kind of the blurb, the quote-unquote elevator pitch for the game. And this book, Atlantis: The Second Age, by Capera Publishing, using the Omni system, it's a complete game for sword and sorcery adventures. I feel it's more like antediluvian high fantasy, with 13 playable races, that's why, including savage Nethermen, the bestial Adamen, the ever-shifting Jinn, the ancient Lemurians, the mighty Atlanteans, and of course, the great mass of humanity. Over 100 cultures for your character to come from, life paths that guide you through character generation, provide hundreds of stepping off points for the adventure. Well, cool, life path system, that's very intriguing. Use a robust Omega system, which I'll get to in a second. An overview of the Isles of Atlantis, including dozens of adventure ideas and much, much more. So, I will say, the book is not organized as I would like. The core rules are not until Chapter 6. Chapter 1 is what is this game. Chapter 2 is character creation. Chapter 3 is magic. 4 is the gods. 5 is equipment. Then 6 you get to the core rules. I think that could be rearranged. Chapter 7 is a GM section. Chapter 8 is kind of a mini bestiary, making adversaries. Chapter 9 is sort of a small gazetteer. There's also the city of Atlantis, which is like the central hub of the world, apparently. So they have a whole nother book, which I do have, called the Geographica Atlantica, which is like a gazetteer of the world. So yeah, I wouldn't arrange it like that. I put the core rules a little earlier, rearrange some of the things. But here's how this is played. The core rules are: you determine a degree of difficulty that represents the ease or difficulty of an action. So it's an addition or subtraction for the difficulty. You add the character's skill or attribute rating to the different degree of difficulty. Then you take the result and add it to a d20 roll. So all you roll is a d20, and then you add it. If you have a negative number, you subtract. If you have a positive number, you add. And 0 or less is a critical failure. 1 to 5 is a failure. 6 to 10 is a partial success. 11 to 19 is a success. And 20 or more, when you roll the d20 and add things up, is a critical success. So I think it's a pretty simple system, really. I haven't run it. It'd be fun to kind of try it out in practice and see how it works. They talk about attributes and attribute rolls. Everything is rated from I think you have a strength attribute, and then you just need the plus, right? Yeah, you just kind of, it's like 2d20. The green Ronins 2d20, you just need the plus. You might roll the dice, or maybe it's point by. I haven't looked. But and then you have a skill rating, is your skill level plus your attribute. And then here's something called intent. What do you want to accomplish? Then your degree of difficulty. So you'd have like a +3, but the degree of difficulty is a -4. Then you have a -1 to your roll. And they have a lot. I think it is cool. They have a lot of examples all the way through the different things. There's like a section on movement, and here's how movement works, and here's an example. There's a section on combat, to roll or not to roll. When do you roll? They have things like combat rating, which is the attribute, combat skill rating, damage rating, how much damage the weapon does, and it's usually depending on the type of weapon. It's like a strength plus the damage rating, and then combat at a glance. Seems pretty easy. Combatants roll for initiative. Player GM states the intent, and this is interesting. The GM states the intent for the NPCs, and then the GM determines bonus or penalties. Player GM rolls attempt for action. The GM rolls for NPCs. The GM judges the result. And initiative is kind of you have a speed roll, a speed attribute. So it's a D20 plus your speed attribute and any instinct skill or other talents that might increase that. So yeah, I think that's interesting. The player GM states intent. So you got to kind of say what you're going to do, what you want to do in that round, etc. There are different various actions, more minutia that we need. But that's kind of the Atlantis, the Second Age at a glance. Now, what about this particular product, Grandmother's Island? I gave an overview of it. It kind of rates in at it's a small adventure. Like I said, I feel like it could be used at a convention. Right, it's about 20 pages of adventure, and then there's another there's a page for adversaries. So maybe 21 pages for the adventure, including adversaries, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different NPCs that you can use for characters. Sorry, 5 different characters that you can use. And the characters are as follows. There's a burglar, so a human burglar, but they also have like the culture, which would be Dasheshi. I don't know what that is. Nubian soldier, human also. Atlantean human saint. I guess that's like a spellcaster. A Lemurian scholar. And I guess Lemurians are kind of like Australopithecus types. So let's see. And then an Attilan look like they're an aquatic race. Attilan Triton sorcerer. Maybe Attilan is like their culture. Triton would be the species, and then sorcerer. So, and then let's see, the adventure itself does take place kind of away from Atlantis in what it looks like the Elysium Sea, which would be the Pacific, and then somewhere in the South Pacific type islands. So maybe it draws from South Pacific sort of mythology and things like that. Let's see, what else do we got here? There's a little bit on adventure formatting, the anatomy of an act, and like what, who, what, where, hook, conflict resolution, and then right, I don't know what these are. Oh, I guess there's something that you can go to and you can buy music and a soundtrack for and inspired by this particular adventure, which is interesting. It's available on drive-thru, which is kind of cool. Then there's Act 1. So the adventure itself is a tale in 5 acts, with the first act being arrival, and then there looks like there's an interaction type of act, and then there is some more action type of acts about Act 3. Act 4 seems to be like an exploration type of act, then Act 5 is the final act. I do like the organization of this particular thing because of that format that they introduced at the beginning. The who, when, and what. The hook gives you a lot of bullet points. It's not like dense text, which is very nice. The conflict is also bullet points, and then there's a resolution and how things can go. And then there's various resolutions, which is nice. There's multiple bullet points under the resolutions. And then if there's something critical that is sort of outside of the realm of the normal skill rolls or conflict rolls, then they give like little sections about that. Like one of the most interesting section here, I think, is something that says like something called chaotic combat, and they tell you that the combat should feel full of excitement and unexpected thrills, and each time the hero's life is threatened, it should be memorable. Combats in this adventure all have a time limit, so they won't be a standard he hit and they hit affair. So it's interesting. So they probably explain how that's supposed to happen. So maybe it's like a large kind of event type of thing, and the characters are a part of that event. It might be, or there is only a certain, like they said, time limit. So for this combat, play up the fact that the people of the tribe are in a chaotic state, and as the heroes act, tribesmen are running to save loved ones, etc. So there's multiple events and other things that'll be going on besides combat in the chaotic combat scene I think that's near the beginning, near the arrival. So pretty cool. Maybe it'll go to a convention or be used at a convention, or I can run it as a one-shot. And that is a brief overview. Oh, I guess one more thing. So One confusion that I had was the difference between Hyborian and Hyperborean. So I turned to Quora, Quora, for an answer. And here we go with that answer. So the Hyborian age, no hyper, refers to Robert E. Howard and his Conan stories. The Hyborian age is a fictional and magical age that acts as a backdrop for the sword and sorcery stories of Conan the Barbarian. And this is from August Ryder, studied at the University of Michigan from 2 years ago or so. This takes place sometime after the fall of Atlantis and before the known recorded history of man. However, there's something called the Hyperborean cycle, which refers to prehistoric stories by Clark Ashton Smith. Smith was inspired by H.P. Lovecraft and Howard, but Smith kind of differed from both his writers, as if you've read it, you would know that he often wrote tongue-in-cheek with a sense of often dark humor, and his stories have cosmic horror, sword, and sorcery. So Hyperborea actually is an Arctic continent that was once lush with jungles. A race known as the Vormi inhabited the continents. They were tall and hairy like yetis, but driven south. The sorcerer priest Abon and the toad-like eldritch abomination Sathagwa are both associated with the Hyperborean cycle. Surprised why Hyperborea, the role-playing game that we know, has a huge influence of Sathagwa in it. Since so the Hyperborean age is essentially the age of Conan, and the Hyperborean cycle is a series of stories by Clark Ashton Smith centered around the Arctic continent of Hyperborea. So I haven't read Atlantis: The Second Age, but I suspect that this takes place historically or pseudo-historically between the fall of Atlantis and the first ice age, or when the rise of the Hyperborean age, or maybe there is or the Clark Ashton Smith tales. I guess I'll have to read the history of this particular RPG and see what that's about. But I guess that's what they mean by Hyperborea. Let me go check. Let me go dig a little second, and then I'll let you go. No, they really don't talk about the age after, just the age before. So the golden age of Atlantis, followed by a cataclysm, followed by a dark age where there was the rise of something called the Hesperian Empire, which then fell apart. The fall of the Hesperian Empire fell apart through warfare and other things, trade collapse, etc. And then this is signaled the second era of Atlantean growth. So the modern scholars call it the Second Age, hinting at hoping that a new golden age is dawning. So Amazon armies caused many kingdoms to set aside differences, which had grown in the Dark Ages, and helping them band together, etc., etc. So I don't know. I guess the Hyperborean age, I'm going to say, is the rise of Hyperborea, or maybe not an ice age, but a climate warming. I don't know what the big map in this particular thing looks like. Maybe that'll have to be a part 2, or maybe if anyone knows or has played of this. They do have like northern realms like Anatos, Jotunland, and there's another realm like quote unquote Antarctica. So I don't know. We will find out maybe if I ever get this to the table. All right. So thank you for listening. This has been a mini review of Atlantis: The Second Age, specifically Grandmother's Island. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely not as long as my normal podcast. So thank you for listening. If you want to give me some feedback, you can contact me at gmologist@gmail.com. Leave me a message or a voice recorded message. You can contact me using SpeakPipe, which I have in the show notes. You can drop me a line using the formerly known as Anchor Spotify for Podcasters website and drop me a line there. Again, thank you for listening. Intro and outro music by TJ Drennan. Today's cover art is a cover of Grandmother's Island, and the cover art, hopefully I can get to, there's a page, hold on. The cover art is by David Arenas. So I think he's done some stuff for Pathfinder, potentially, so you might recognize the art style. But it looks actually pretty cool. It's a pretty evocative cover, shows the diversity of the group of heroes, and a scary kind of dark-looking scene with animals crowding all around. All right. I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.